Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. Today we will discuss about the changed stance of Nepal on China. Months back, Nepal Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli rubbed India the wrong way by raking up border dispute, apparently at the behest of China. Now, months later, he has changed tune and has told China to keep off. Significantly, this comes just as Indian Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla paid a visit to Nepal and met Oli and other leaders. So, what has happened? In the agenda today, we will try to analyze this aspect with former diplomat Ambassador J.K. Tripathi and Jitendra Kumar Oja, who is an expert on geostrategic affairs. But before we begin our conversation, let's have a look at this small report.
Nepal's Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli, who appeared to be under strong influence of China, seems to be making course correction. He has reportedly told China that it should not interfere in Nepal's politics. This comes months after he irritated India by raking up the border row and made certain controversial comments which threatened the unique relationship between India and Nepal. It is believed that he had taken that posture at the behest of China. Now Oli is facing a crisis from within his Nepali Congress party, and amidst this, he has conveyed to China that he is capable of dealing with issues concerning his country without any external help. Significantly, the latest development came as Indian Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla met Oli in Kathmandu and emphasized that the two countries need to respect each other's sensitivities. The reference was clearly to the issue of Kalapani and Lipulekh areas, regarding which Oli said some months back that these belong to Nepal. He followed it up by issuing a new map of Nepal which showed these areas as part of Nepal. India took objection to it and asserted that Kalapani and Lipulekh are part of Uttarakhand and hence Nepal has no claim. Shringla, who concluded his two-day visit to Nepal yesterday, discussed the border issue with Oli. Nepal Foreign Ministry in a statement said views were exchanged on completing the boundary work. Shringla is understood to have conveyed to Oli that tensions in the age-old relationship was not good and efforts needed to be made to harness positive aspects in the ties. It seems the message has gone down well and Oli has taken the right course. Bureau Report.
Now, let's welcome our guests, Mr. Tripathi and Mr. Oja. Welcome to the program, sir. So, I'll begin by asking Mr. Tripathi, you must have come to know about KP Sharma Oli's new tune. He is asking China to keep off. He can handle all internal politics. How do you see that?
You see, I think that Nepal has finally realized, it has dawned upon them that they cannot exist, much less their development. They cannot exist in absence of Indian assistance or Indian, because lifeline for Nepal for all goods, everything, petroleum, etc., passes through India, and unless and until China makes the railway that they are trying to make from Lhasa to Kathmandu to Lumbini, and that too at a very feasible cost. Unless it happens, which is most likely not to happen in the very near future, very foreseeable future. So, and until then, Nepal has to depend on India. One. Second, Nepal and India do share very old historic relationship that Nepal doesn't share with China. And then there are substantial number of people from India, that is Indian origin people, whom you call Madhesis there. They are active in Nepali politics also. And Nepali community as such, Nepali indigenous community as such, is very much clean, very much close to India. So due to all these reasons, it had to happen, and then Besides this, Oli was facing a very severe resistance from within his party, from Prachand and Madhav, Nepal, etc. So Oli had to buckle down. It was a foregone conclusion, though it took a little bit more time, and I'm surprised about that. But all said and done, it is in, it is in interest of Nepali people to be aligned with India, because India is the country which can take care of their many needs.
Okay, I'll come back to you. I'll ask the same question to Mr. Oja. How do you see now Oli changing tune? Only months back he was irritating India by raking Lipu Lake and other issues.
I think this is a very welcome change, and as a large country, we should be very generous and magnanimous with him. The way he has changed, finally, he has realized, as previous panelist Ambassador Tripathi has pointed it out, Nepal recognizes and acknowledges the quality of role and the kind of role we have played and we have to play in this region. I would also suggest that our, of course, historical and sociological and these ties are far too deep-rooted, and this has nothing to do with China. But we have to realize two things. Firstly, the kind of asymmetry of power which China has managed to develop in terms of its economic capacity, technological strength. So all these things are enticing some of these smaller neighbors. All right, if these neighbors are drawn towards China for these reasons. But such dependence is being abused by China almost universally. You see what is happening in Maldives or what happened with Sri Lanka. So I'm sure all these smaller neighbors do realize pitfalls of getting far too close to China, or whatever subversive agenda or design China may have, or it wants to use territory of our smaller neighbors for activities that are prejudicial to India. So this realization is very, very welcome. But at the same time, most of these neighbors and most of other countries also realize what they are how they are trying to push this debt trap diplomacy. They are, giving soft loans, and then they are making these countries dependent on them. And Chinese have always been somehow racist. Han supremacy has been at the core of their national security strategy. So in long run, given an option, none of these countries would go to China, I would suppose. But at the same time, I have always maintained that we should not be overly critical of these countries. We share a unique geopolitics where far too many smaller countries are our immediate neighbors. So we have to be receptive to their requirements, but at the same time, we should have both capacity as well as intent to tell that we would support them through every possible means, but under no circumstances any of these smaller neighbors should cross the red line. Red line, I mean anything which is prejudicial to national security. Secondly, I believe, having said that, we also have a unique moral obligation. We have to serve as role model, as a healthy, vibrant, strong democracy, one. And number two, I would say that our diplomats, our embassy has to be absolutely non-partisan. We have to command a stronger credibility that across the line politicians should realize that India is a soul them, and they have to be respectful to security interests of India. So I see from this perspective, this is a welcome change, and we have to have a long-term strategic approach where, an aberration like what happened in the past, that are avoided. Because any of these close neighbors and friends, not because we should be coercive of this thing, we should have such strong goodwill that people should be deterred. They should think multiple times before doing anything which is prejudicial to national security interest of India. This is what I believe, Ajayji.
Okay, I'll turn to Mr. Tripathi. Mr. Ambassador Tripathi, you earlier mentioned about India's assistance is crucial for Nepal's existence. But at the same time, we have to note that China has been making lucrative promises. And in fact, as you mentioned about the railway line and other access they have been trying to build. So, I mean, China is already making those moves to tell them that we are the alternative or better alternative. What do you say on that?
You see, China is trying to woo Nepal by saying that we are the better alternative, but in fact it is not, because of the two reasons. First, the proposed Chinese railways, which is proposed from Lhasa to Kathmandu and Lumbini. It is a non-starter, I must say, because one, the cost of this railway is going to be about $6 billion US. And out of this $6 billion US, China had asked Nepal for $3 billion, that is 50%. And $3 billion will be Chinese loan to Nepal. That means if we add this $3 billion to Nepalese loan from China, total loan from China comes to about $5.6 billion for a country whose total economy is $29 billion. So that is around 20%, more than 20% of the economy is due to, I mean,
Will be
more
debt.
than the loan is more than 20% of the economy, the loan from China only. Secondly, this alternative from Lhasa to Lumbini, problem will be that there are about 70 tunnels to be dug and equal number of bridges, and this area being very much seismic area, seismic prone area, what happens is that there is always a possibility uh, of tremors. And not only that, the nearest Chinese port through which China proposes to bring goods for Nepal, which come from abroad, is about 4,000 kilometers from Lhasa. So if we take the time taken, if we calculate the time taken from that port to Kathmandu, it takes not less than 70 days for the goods to come. Whereas from India, from Nepal, from Calcutta or any other nearby port, it takes maximum 15 days. So this is economically non-viable, non-viable. This Chinese must understand, and I am happy that many of the Chinese economists have understood it. And plus, China is also forwarding loans for so many projects for their military academy, for their university, for their road structure. The total will be, in the end, the total will be about $8 billion for a country with $29 billion economy. 8 billion from China only. So this is a clear-cut design of trapping Nepal in their debt trap. That is what I think.
Okay, Mr. Oja, I'll come back to you. Since you mentioned about that smaller countries in the region are being influenced, or China is trying to woo them. So we also have seen recently about Bhutan, how China has now kind of adopted or encroached upon a village in Bhutan, and we have also seen how China is trying to get foothold in Bangladesh by giving loans, and also Sri Lanka. So is it Chinese tactic of maybe taking all our smaller neighbors away?
Absolutely. This is a very clear strategy of China, because China does not want India to come and pose a competition in this region and beyond. China has global ambitions, and this is what is manifest in its security and economic policies, its expansion in Central Asia, its ability, or rather its efforts to capture whole of Afro-Asian region. It has been constantly giving signals that West, and especially United States of America, has to leave this region, and this will be the sole dominant power. So it has that strategy. This is very clear. Whether they say it or they don't say it, it is irrelevant. But I have been focusing on larger picture, Ajayji, and I have absolutely no confusion regarding that. And it would not like India to come up and do everything possible to hold India back, to generate internal contradiction in India, use territory of our smaller neighbors. Secondly, China was a very small, rustic civilization few centuries back, and I'm going far too back in the history, because Chinese talk about civilization. So their Han civilization era onwards, when Buddhism went there, they started, really civilizing their Song and Tang dynasty era from that time onwards. And they have been steadily expanding, because so-called nomads, they used to talk, and these walls where they were building wall. They had a culture of building walls from these people. So everyone they have managed to usurp, and they have managed to expand. So if China does, we people have to be Sinicized, or they have to lose their identity, or they will be subsumed. Compared to that, we have been a far bigger civilization, but we have been shrinking. And this is what I feel, that We need to think big. We have to have a larger strategic vision and approach, and tactical and other things should follow from there. Secondly, regarding economic projects, etc., yes, certain projects they may fail, but we have to acknowledge that our private sector, our corporate sector has failed us very badly. They are not that competitive, and that is the reason, that Chinese have expanded 4 times, 5 times. Of course, this is an entirely different debate. But fact is that their stronger economic prowess, stronger capacity enables them to woo this thing. And in terms of larger national security vision, we have to address it. These are issues that need to be addressed internally. Of course, whatever is, this cannot change. This is again a strategic issue. But Chinese do have this design, and we have not been very cognizant of it for last few decades, I would say. So naturally, they are trying to exploit, and this happens. The kind of Chinese, have been trying to follow both naval and 19th century, early 20th century security strategies of Mackinder and Mahan and all these things combined.
Right.
And they have managed to fuse their economic agenda with this. So this is a very clear thing. Yes, tactically, we have to hold on to these neighbors. We have to tell them economically, at the moment, we are not in a position to compete with China. So we should not say, okay, you are investing, I'm also investing. That competition is avoidable. But otherwise, the bonds that we are sharing with these countries, we have to build on that. And whatever ways, economically also, we can't completely abdicate that responsibility. Wherever is there, we have to go. But I think I slightly disagree with Ambassador Tripathi. The kind of diplomacy or geostrategy or geopolitics which is required in this region is different. No other countries faces this kind of, because we are a much larger and older civilization. And civilizationally, all these countries, whether it's Bhutan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, all these are part of us. So at this point of time, we have to have that vision, but not that, as I say, we have to be only generous and giving them. We have to have a deeper understanding wherever possible. Wherever there are possible areas of conflict, we have to see and address and eliminate those causatives of conflict. This is what I believe. I'm not just an expert. I do have my own independent views on these issues, Ajayji. So this is what I believe, that we have to innovate, we have to reinvent as far as diplomacy is concerned. At the same time, when I talk about national security, we have to build internal capacities. We have to acknowledge that private sector is a very integral component of our national security strategy. They should be in a position to give not only Chinese a run for the money, because we have some of the finest brain. You see, so many global CEOs are Indians, and within India, this kind of underperformance compared to China shows there's something lacking in our democracy, which should be competitive based. I'm sorry, I'm digressing from this subject, but we should not view China and India, Nepal, China, this thing from prism of few projects A, B, and C. It is much larger. Yes, they are there. We also have to go in, but we have to give this assurance to these countries. We are their protectors. We are source of their strength. Their security is something new, and we are only country who have valued. Otherwise, had they been of Chinese origin, China would have subsumed them by this time. So they have to realize, and the only thing I would say, urge my friends in diplomacy, please never be partisan in any of these countries. Madhesis are important, but for us, whole of Nepal is important. And we should be, someone who should command absolute credibility. So that should be the level of, that should be the vision, and that should be the level of trust with smaller countries like this.
So we are running out of time. One last question to Mr. Tripathi. Ambassador Tripathi, so as Oli was seen to be, under influence of China, and significantly he was facing a lot of problems within his party, NCP, and Prachanda was posing a lot of problems for him. So do you think he has succumbed because of that? Brief comments.
No, that is one of the reasons that Kohli had to climb down from his high position of Prime Minister and the co-chairman of the party. Is one reason. But the other reason is the population, the local people of Nepal. There had been demonstrations, there had been protests. In fact, there had been observations ridiculing Kohli when he said that Ayodhya was not in India, Ayodhya was near Janakpur in Nepal. So these things, and then the intellectuals, the learned people, the people who matter there in the society, they know what India is in Nepal. They know how India and Nepal friendship.
Ambassador Tripathi, sorry, we are running out of time. Sorry to cut you, but we are running out of time.
I will just say one sentence. Only to supplement what Ambassador Tripathi says. One sentence.
Yeah, please, one sentence.
They are our blood siblings. Nepal is our blood sibling. We may have some issues, but at the end of the day, they are part of us culturally, civilized, and we are part of them. Not that anyone is superior.
Right,
So I think that
right. Nepal is part of
inseparable.
yeah. Nepal is part of us, and I think they realize it. I think across political parties they realize it. But thank you both of you for participating in this debate today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another important topic on Monday. Till then, goodbye.